Alright, this video is going to teach you about the different types of fractions that we will be working with in 4th grade. So to get started, we talk about proper fractions, which is what students are already familiar with from previous grade levels. A proper fraction is just a fraction where the numerator is less than the denominator, and our numerator represents part of a whole. And so when you show your child a fraction like this, they should very easily be able to visualize or draw a picture that would represent a proper fraction. So this is review from previous grade levels. Now that we're in 4th grade, though, we get to look at some more difficult and challenging fractions. So the first would be what we call a mixed number. And a mixed number is made up of both whole numbers and fractions. So for example, 3 and 1/4. 3 would represent our wholes. So if I were to draw a picture, that would be 3 wholes, as well as 1/4. So I feel like students picked up on that pretty easily when I taught that this week, but that is an example of a mixed number. So if you're practicing at home, you could draw a picture, have your child write the mixed number that matches it, or vice versa. You could write a mixed number, have them draw a picture. It's just really important that they see the relationship between those two. The next type of fraction that I taught this week is called an improper fraction. And students have never really seen improper fractions before, and to be completely honest, we don't really use improper fractions in real life very often, but it's still important for them to understand the relationship. So an improper fraction is when your numerator is greater than your denominator. So this can be a little bit confusing for students because they might think, well, how is that possible? Well, this really just represents that we have some wholes included inside of this fraction. So we have to think in terms of 4. So we want to think, okay, if we've got 13 parts, but 4 parts make a whole, how many wholes do we really have? So they might start drawing wholes that have 4 parts. So here's 4. They know they need more. This would be 8, but that's still not equivalent to 13, so we've got to keep drawing wholes. Another one, well, that would be 12. So then they should know that they still need one more whole, but only one part shaded. So this is equivalent to 13/4. And the last thing we talked about this week is whole numbers as fractions. So let's say we have 3 wholes, or a picture would look like 3 completely shaded wholes. How do we write that as a fraction? Well, we've got 3 parts, and each of those is divided into one piece. So we've got one whole fraction, one whole fraction, one whole fraction. That's 3 total. I also helped students to understand or to be able to check through this by using division. That fraction symbol is really like a division symbol. So if they can think to themselves, well, what's 3 divided by 1? That helps them check to make sure they understand that that's actually the same as 3 wholes. So when we're taking a whole number and trying to turn it into a fraction, we just put a 1 underneath it. This can be easily confused with 1 whole. Anytime we have a fraction with the same number on top as we do on the bottom, that just means that we've got that number of parts and they're all completely shaded. It does not mean we have 3 wholes, it means we have 1 whole. So again, we can relate that to division. 3 divided by 3 is equal to 1. So that can help them make that correlation. It can be really tricky when we're throwing all of those different concepts together at the same time, so we will continue to practice in class, but that was one reason that I really felt this video was necessary so that you can be practicing that with your child at home as well.